Hi, my name is Damien. I'm a personal trainer and owner of DJMC Fit, and in this video we're going to be covering active and dynamic stretching. But before we get into that, let's review a full warm-up sequence to see where those two types of stretches are most commonly used. Then afterward, we'll cover both in more detail. So when starting our warm-up, we begin with self-myofascial techniques. Then we move into our static stretches, then our active stretches, and lastly, dynamic stretches. But I do want to note there's also neuromuscular stretching and ballistic stretching. But neuromuscular stretching has a few different components that differ from the other types of stretches, and some of those stretches require a partner to perform. And ballistic stretching is more typically performed by competitive athletes and is sport specific. So I'll be covering those in a separate video. So now let's cover active and dynamic stretching in more detail. Well, unlike static stretching, active and dynamic stretching include more movement. And what makes the two different is that active stretching includes a short pause in between the two phases of movement of the stretch, where dynamic stretching is continuous without a pause during both of those phases of movement in the stretch. For an active stretch example, I'm going to perform a 90-90 hamstring stretch. So I have a soft exercise mat here, and I'm going to lay down on this with my body fully extended and relaxed. And I'm going to maintain the natural curvature of my spine. I'm not going to flatten my spine to the ground, but leave the small arch in the low back. And then per the name of the exercise, I'm going to raise one of my legs and maintain a 90-degree flexion of my knee and a 90-degree flexion of my hip, and place my hands on the back of the leg just below the knee. Then I'm going to extend my foot to the ceiling to the end range of motion, and then hold the stretch there for 1 to 2 seconds, and then return my leg to the starting position. So extending my foot upward to the end range, holding for 1 to 2 seconds, and then returning the leg back down to the 90-degree position, and then repeat that for a specified number of repetitions, which is typically 5 to 10 repetitions. So the mechanism of action at play in an active stretch is called reciprocal inhibition. And what that means is that when a muscle on one side of a joint contracts, the muscle on the opposite side relaxes. So in this context, when I contract my quad to extend my foot to the ceiling, my hamstring relaxes. And since the hamstring is the muscle that we're stretching, by relaxing it with the contraction of the quad, I can stretch my leg to a further end range, which improves the stretch. So that is how an active stretch works and how reciprocal inhibition works. So after performing those set repetitions on that leg, you switch to the opposite leg in the same position and repeat for that same number of repetitions. For the dynamic stretch, I'm going to demonstrate the front to back leg swing. So for this stretch, it can be helpful to have a pole or a beam to hold on to for balance and keeping the body stable during the leg swing. So we hold the pole or beam on the same side that we're going to be swinging the leg, and then starting at the foot on the opposite leg, we're going to plant it firmly with toes pointing forward. We're going to keep the knee neutral and the hips neutral and the chest up during the movement. Then we're going to swing the opposite leg forward as high as comfortable. And when swinging the leg backward, we can actually add a little bit of knee flexion or bend in the knee to help stretch the quad. So planting my foot firmly, hips neutral, chest up, swing the leg forward and backward, allowing a little bit of knee flexion on the back swing. And we repeat this leg swing for 5 to 10 repetitions, with 1 repetition a front and back movement. And then when we finish those repetitions, we come back to the starting position and then switch sides, doing the back. So the unique property of the dynamic stretch is that we use that same muscle contraction that we do with active stretching, but we also use momentum. And this momentum allows us to move through a full range of motion and helps improve extensibility of the muscles. And extensibility basically means the ability to elongate or stretch the muscles without causing injury. So with a proper selection of those stretches within our warm-up, we gradually and fully prepare our muscles for the demands of the exercises we're going to perform while reducing our risk of injury. So I hope that information about active and dynamic stretching helped. And please feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions. And thanks for watching, everybody.